Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Prasar Bharati. Coming up in the next hour. Israel fires missile at Gaza house of Hamas chief Haniyeh. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu wants hostages back to stop war. US Arab leaders to meet over Gaza. Qatari and Lebanese leaders call for Gaza ceasefire during meeting with Antony Blinken. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen visits Kyiv ahead of report on accession progress. Over 130 killed and many injured in Nepal after strong earthquake struck the western area of Jajarkot on Friday. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi expresses grief and readiness to help. In the latest of Israel-Hamas conflict, as per a report, an Israeli drone on Saturday fired at Gaza house of Hamas's leader Ismail Haniyeh. It is unclear whether any of his family members were at the house when it was struck. Haniyeh, Hamas's political chief, has been outside the Gaza Strip since 2019, residing between Turkey and Qatar. Meanwhile, footage released by Israeli army also showed tanks firing artillery rounds and soldiers moving through buildings reduced to rubble amid the ongoing military operation in Gaza. The Israeli army claimed that troops killed dozens of terrorists and destroyed Hamas terror infrastructure. The footage also showed monochrome footage of targets being hit in air raids. Israel's ground forces encircled Gaza city on Thursday after stepping up bombing campaign. It says aims at wiping out Hamas after the terror group killed 1,400 people and took more than 240 hostage in an October 7 assault in southern Israel. The Israeli army released footage on Saturday which shows a strike on the Hezbollah group positions in Lebanon from which militants had been attempting to fire towards Israel. The army said the strikes were carried out on two terrorist cells that had been trying to fire towards Israel and a Hezbollah observation post. Now, amid the escalating tension between the Lebanon-based Hezbollah and Israeli forces, the residents at the Lebanese border with Israel are leaving their homeland. The tension arose when an Israeli military post was attacked by anti-tank fires. Hezbollah claimed responsibility for the firing precision missiles on Israel. As per the International Organization for Migration, more than 30,000 Lebanese have been displaced since the beginning of the border tension. Meanwhile, after Israel, Blinken is now in Jordan, where he will hear demands for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza when he meets Middle East foreign ministers later today. Blinken is slated to meet with the Saudi, Qatari, Emirati and Egyptian foreign ministers, as well as Palestinian representatives in Amman today. Earlier, in a meeting with Blinken in Amman, both Lebanon's caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati and Qatari Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani stressed that the importance of working towards a ceasefire in Gaza. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre has said that the United States does not want to see the Israel-Hamas conflict expand into Lebanon. She said that Hezbollah and other actors, including state and non-state, should not take advantage of the ongoing conflict. Speaking to reporters, Karine Jean-Pierre said U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has highlighted how it is valuable to have a pause to get aid in and hostages out. She refused to share details regarding private diplomatic conversations. The White House press secretary said that she is aware of Hezbollah leader's speech and added that the U.S. would not engage in a war of words. She said that the U.S. does not seek escalation of the conflict that Hamas has brought on Israel. Jean-Pierre also said that 100 US citizens and family members left Gaza on Thursday, adding negotiations are intense on getting foreign nationals out of Gaza and that it is a fluid situation. As the war between Israel and Hamas enters its 29th day, the Israeli Prime Minister has rejected calls for a humanitarian pause in Gaza region. The Israeli military has continued to exchange fire with Hamas terrorists in Gaza. The Israeli military said it would enable Palestinians to travel on a main Gaza Strip highway on Saturday as part of its 3-week-old efforts to encourage civilians to evacuate southward away from areas that are the focus of its war with Hamas.
The Israel-Hamas conflict remains unresolved, with Israel refusing to agree to a temporary ceasefire until the release of over 240 hostages taken by Hamas during their attack on October 7th.
We are proceeding with all our might, and Israel refuses any temporary ceasefire that does not include the return of our kidnapped hostages. Israel will not permit the transfer of fuel to the Gaza Strip and opposes the transfer of funding to Gaza.
In a recent tragic incident, an airstrike on an ambulance in Gaza led to the loss of several lives. The Israeli army has claimed that the ambulance was being used by a Hamas terrorist cell, and they took action to neutralize the threat. On the international front, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken, during his second visit to Israel, urged Israel to allow humanitarian pauses in the ongoing conflict with Hamas in Gaza.
Even as we work toward progress on each of these urgent needs, we're focused on setting the conditions for a durable and sustainable peace and security. The United States continues to believe that the best viable path, indeed the only path, is through a two-state solution. That's the only guarantor of a secure Jewish and democratic Israel, the only guarantor of Palestinians realizing their legitimate right to live in a state of their own, enjoying equal measures of security, freedom, opportunity, and dignity. The only way to end a cycle of violence once and for all.
Despite ongoing humanitarian aid reaching Gaza, the Strip is facing an extreme shortage of food, exacerbating the crisis that has persisted for more than 3 weeks.
Well, as you can see, the needs are great. The needs were great even before the current crisis. Before the current crisis, there were 1.6 million people inside the Gaza Strip who needed food assistance. Food insecurity was rampant inside the Gaza Strip.
Offering their support to Gaza, Indonesia has released the first batch of humanitarian aid, encompassing food and medical supplies. This substantial 51.5-ton shipment was provided by the Indonesian government in collaboration with various humanitarian organizations.
Well, joining me live on the story is Mia Alberti from Beirut. Mia, any new developments at the Israel and Lebanon border, and what's the latest there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're seeing a battle unfold as we speak. We're seeing an exchange of fire, quite intense, happening there in the southern Lebanese border with Israel. In the morning, we heard from Israeli army saying that it was targeting terrorist cells belonging to Hezbollah that were preparing to carry out an attack against Israel. Now we're seeing Hezbollah also, well, actually, some militants also replying with some exchange of fire. Hezbollah has not taken claim of this attack yet, but now we're seeing also some bombardment happening in the Lebanese town of Maish, and it seems from the images we are seeing from the area, like a large explosion took place very close to the villages of the area. Most of the videos we're seeing on social media, you know, filmed by residents, they're very, very close to the explosion, so we continue to see this daily exchange, escalation of violence there.
All right, and Mia, how is Israel retaliating as Hezbollah increased its attack with rockets and missiles?
Absolutely. I mean, Israel has made its stance very clear from the beginning that would reply to any attack coming from southern Lebanon in equal measure. And that is what we are seeing happening at the border, with the Israeli army saying that it is responding to fire incoming from Hezbollah. But not only that, we're also seeing Israel now, taking the initiative, if we can call it that, and also attacking these so-called terrorist cells and these Hezbollah positions there. So not just replying to what is coming from southern Lebanon, but also starting to get these preventive measures, trying to attack Hezbollah's positions, which obviously is just contributing to the escalation of violence here.
Okay. Mia, could you update us on the situation on Golan Heights?
Absolutely, it's close to where I was saying that there was this big explosion reported today. We do know that across this border region, 28 villages have been evacuated over this past month, and it is a ghost town. These are ghost towns. People, we know that thousands of people, both from Israel and Lebanon side of the border, have been evacuated. The Golan Heights is one of these hot areas where this exchange of fires have been taking place, and today we are seeing that once again. And again, it's quite early on a Saturday, and we are already seeing a very intense escalation of violence, which just goes to show that although Hassan Nasrallah, the chief of Hezbollah, spoke yesterday on Friday saying that they were already participating, not declaring a full-on war, we are seeing this kind of consequences of that speech already in this escalation of violence there.
All right, thank you so much, Mia, for joining in. The United Nations have renewed calls for a ceasefire in the Middle East. The world body's humanitarian head, Martin Griffiths, has told UN members that time is running out for the thousands of Palestinians. He has called for immediate intervention from the international community. Jody Jacobs reports from the United Nations.
With the conflict in the Middle East now in its third week, United Nations staff, especially those on the ground, are worried. More than 70 of its staff have been killed, and it says providing humanitarian aid is extremely challenging due to the lack of fuel, the ongoing bombardments, and the destruction of its infrastructure. The United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs convened a meeting in New York on Friday, briefing member states on the situation in Gaza. Martin Griffiths, the UN's humanitarian chief, says close to 9,000 Palestinians have been killed and says it's unclear the exact numbers, as more could be unaccounted for under the rubble. But it's not only humanitarian aid that's a concern for the world body. It says the health system in Gaza is close to collapsing. The United Nations resident coordinator for the occupied Palestinian territories, Lynn Hastings, says the health system is overwhelmed with an influx of injuries combined with severe shortages of supplies, personnel, electricity and water. Since the start of the hostilities, she says 40% of hospitals in Gaza, that's 14 out of 35, have shut. Meanwhile, the UN says UNRWA is also running out of money. It says the situation has grown so increasingly desperate, and the UN and its partners will release an updated flash appeal for more funds to last until the end of the year. Now, the UN has been unable in recent weeks to take any decisive, legally binding decisions on the conflict, as the Security Council remains paralyzed by veto votes and the inability to agree on appropriate language on a Security Council resolution. The UN General Assembly has, however, passed a resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire, but this is not legally binding. Jody Jacobs in New York, reporting for DD India.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. Nepal's Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal visits survivors of a strong earthquake that claimed over 130 lives and left over 150 injured. Pakistan police send undocumented Afghans to transit camps. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese arrives in China.
platform for the developing world, amplifying the voice of the Global South with a focus on the growing economies, resolving the conflicts, showcasing the culture, tradition, heritage and diversity. Watch Voice of the Global South at these times on DD India.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi cautioned why the perils of appeasement politics can go to the extent of saving and standing with terror.
Sonia Gandhi's speech was kind of an apology speech for Hamas.
Karnataka has shown overwhelmingly that a certain community voted for the Congress en bloc. Congress party is consciously taking this position.
Our national security lie in the suppression and the crushing of the extremist and the terrorist elements.
India News Hour, I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. And now, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan told reporters that Gaza must be part of an independent, sovereign Palestinian state once the Israel-Hamas war is over, adding Ankara would not support models gradually erasing Palestinians from history. Erdogan also said that his intelligence chief, Ibrahim Kalin, was in contact with Israeli and Palestinian authorities as well as Hamas. He said he would not take Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as a counterpart, but added Ankara would not sever its ties with Israel either. British Foreign Minister James Cleverly has urged Iran to use its influence with groups in the Middle East region to prevent an escalation of Israel's conflict with Hamas. Britain's Foreign Office said Cleverly spoke to Iranian Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdollahian on Friday, telling him Iran bore responsibility for the actions of groups such as Hamas and Hezbollah that it has supported for many years. A Foreign Office spokesperson said Cleverly also reiterated that Iranian-backed threats against people in the United Kingdom were unacceptable and must stop. Britain has supported Israel's right to defend itself after an October 7 attack by Hamas that Israel said had killed 1,400 people, mostly civilians, and saw over 200 others kidnapped. DD India's Amritpal Singh foiled this report from the Lebanon-Israel border as the Hezbollah steps up missile and rocket attacks.
Even as the center of the military campaign of Israel is the Gaza Strip, and Israel continues to pound Gaza Strip through airstrikes and its ground forces, which have entered the Gaza Strip in limited numbers. But the northern front of Israel is also heating up. I'm right now on the Lebanon-Israel border, and those mountains that you see behind me are Lebanon. Hezbollah is constantly firing rockets into northern Israel. Even as we speak, the rockets are being fired. That city that you see there is Kiryat Shimona, which saw a barrage of rockets fired by Hamas fighters who are also in southern Lebanon. So both Hezbollah and the Hamas, or there are groups of Hamas who are active in the Palestinian refugee camps there. All this while hectic diplomacy is on. Antony Blinken, the U.S. Secretary of State, was in Israel on Friday. He met with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his war cabinet. Later, he traveled to Jordan to see that the spillover does not happen, the war does not escalate regionally. So now the focus clearly from the Israeli side is to intensify its military activity. Hamas, Hezbollah are fighting back, but the headache for the international community is one, how humanitarian aid is increased, whether through a humanitarian pause, and also the fate of the hostages and the other foreigners who are stuck inside the Gaza Strip. And the third, of course, is how to prevent a regional escalation of the war. Amritpal Singh for DD India in Meramgon.
Tariq-e-Jihad terrorists attacked an Air Force base in central Pakistan early Saturday. 3 aircraft and a fueling tanker were damaged after gunmen stormed the Pakistani Air Force training base in Mianwali, inflicting casualties. Pakistan military said combing red and clearance operation at the training base has been concluded and all 9 terrorists have been neutralized. In neighboring Pakistan, police have started search and cordon operations in areas where Afghans have been residing after the expiry of a deadline to expel all undocumented foreigners from the country. Dozens of foreigners, mostly Afghans, sat in a Karachi police station as they waited to be shifted to temporary transit camps. Police carried out a search and cordon operation in Junajo colony, a refugee settlement where they searched more than 900 houses. Pakistan has brushed off calls from the United Nations, rights groups and Western embassies to reconsider its plan to expel more than 1 million of the 4 million Afghans in the country, saying they had been involved in Islamist militant attacks and crimes that undermine the security of the country, which Kabul denies. Many of the migrants fled Afghanistan during the decades of the armed conflict since the late 1970s, while the Islamist Taliban's takeover after the withdrawal of US-led coalition forces in 2021 led to another exodus. And European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen arrived in Kyiv on Saturday ahead of a report in the European Union is expected to present next week about Ukraine's progress in its membership bid. The EU assessment due on Wednesday, November 8 is expected to detail how far Ukraine has advanced in fulfilling various economic, legal and other criteria to clear the way for accession talks to be launched in December. Ukraine, which applied to join the European Union days after Russia's full-scale invasion in February 2022, sees joining the trade bloc as a top priority. The EU's 27 members are due at a summit in December to decide whether to allow Kyiv to begin accession negotiations, a move requiring the unanimous backing of all the bloc's members. Both Russia and Ukraine claim to have taken new military actions against each other in their respective briefings. The Russian Defense Ministry said that in the past week that its army repelled the attacks of the Ukrainian army in many directions, including Kupiansk, Krasny, Liman and Donetsk, and attacked a Ukrainian ammunition depot and also shot down over 10 fighters from the Ukrainian side. While the Ukrainian side said that its air forces carried out several strikes on the Russian air defense missile system and also attacked Russian electronic warfare systems. Meanwhile, the United States is set to provide $425 million worth of additional arms and equipment to Ukraine for its ongoing fight against Russia's invasion. The package uses the last of the funds in the Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative, a more than $18 billion fund that allowed the Biden administration to buy weapons from industry rather than pull from U.S. weapons stocks. The USAI funds will be put toward $300 million worth of laser-guided munitions to shoot down Russian drones. Well, both Russia and Ukraine have claimed to have taken down each other's artillery as the war continues between both the nations. Well, DD India correspondent Megumi Lim joins us from Kyiv. Megumi, what's the latest there as European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen arrived in Kyiv? What is expected?
Well, the latest is that there's been air raid alarms, alerts issued all across Ukraine just hours after her arrival. She arrived this morning via rail and she was welcomed by President Zelensky this morning at the railway station in Kyiv. But it seems like Moscow possibly may be retaliating to this visit as we have heard air raid sirens blare out across the country and here in Kyiv as well. Now, this visit is really an important one, especially for President Zelensky, as he has been working hard to make advances, improvements in his country to fulfill the requirements needed for Ukraine to join the EU. And this is sort of a final assessment that von der Leyen will be taking away from Ukraine before there will be a report that will be published, expected to be published
All right, Megumi.
week on Wednesday regarding the advances, the improvements that Ukraine has made. Now, there's been a list of 7 items that the EU has told Ukraine they need to make improvements on, including things like tackling corruption and money laundering, and also making changes to national minority laws, which in fact, yesterday President Zelensky signed a law changing laws surrounding national minorities, where now national minorities are able to hold cultural events in their own language, and also publish ads in their own languages. So these are some of the improvements that Ukraine has made. And of course, corruption is a huge thing. In September, one of the big changes that were made was seen in the defense ministry. There was a big reshuffling of the Ukrainian defense ministry, where even the leader, the top of the defense ministry, was replaced with Rustem Umerov, currently, who heads the defense ministry. And these are the changes that the EU has been watching out for, because in December, EU leaders will be meeting in their summit on December 14th and 15th to discuss whether they will allow Ukraine to open talks, negotiations surrounding the path for them to join the EU. And of course, this decision has to be backed by all 27 member countries of the EU.
All right, thank you so much for joining in. Nepal's Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal on Saturday visited survivors of a strong earthquake which has left over 130 dead and dozens more injured in the Himalayan nation. Dahal offered condolences and support to people who had been evacuated to a shelter in Jajarkot, western Nepal, after their homes were destroyed. He also appealed everyone concerned to help with the rescue and relief efforts. The 6.4 magnitude earthquake struck Nepal's Jajarkot and Rukum district at around midnight. The tremor was felt in surrounding districts and as far as in capital city Kathmandu as well. Police has said 92 people have been confirmed dead in Jajarkot and 36 in Rukum West. All the security forces in the 2 districts have been mobilized in the search and rescue work. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has expressed grief over loss of lives and damage due to the earthquake in Nepal. In a tweet, he said, "India stands in solidarity with the people of Nepal and is ready to extend all possible assistance. Our thoughts are with the bereaved families and we wish the injured a quick recovery." And the director of National Center for Seismology said that the intensity of the tremors in Nepal was strong, but when it came to Delhi, it reduced. Take a listen.
Very strong intensity at Nepal. But when you come to Delhi here, Delhi is in this side, okay? So you come to Delhi, then you see it was the reduced, okay? It come to Delhi, it was the reduced. And it was in between there. Here is somewhere Delhi, okay? So here is the Delhi. So it was in between 3 and 4, 4 and 5 in between. There was this and this color, surf blue color. Okay. So that's why because of this 4 and 5 intensity is about perceptible intensity. So intensity is the degree of shaking. But magnitude 6.4 is the content of energy. Earthquake does not kill the people. It is the structure that kills the people.
Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese arrived in China on Saturday on a trip aimed at mending relations between the 2 countries. As Patrick Falk reports, he's putting trade at the centre of Australia's approach.
Well, Australia's Defence Minister Richard Marles described the sort of dilemma that his country faces when he was talking to reporters in Washington earlier this week, saying that China is Australia's greatest security anxiety. It is also its largest partner, with the world's 2nd largest economy accounting for about a quarter of Australia's export earnings. That's more than its next 3 biggest trading partners combined. And Prime Minister Anthony Albanese intends to hit home with the message that trade is an anchor for stabilising relations between the 2 countries during his visit. Now, he won't be meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping until Monday, but he'll be attending a top imports convention in Shanghai today. He'll also be speaking with a large group of business leaders tomorrow. And it's got to be said that relations have improved considerably since he came to office, with China lifting most of the trade restrictions imposed in 2020 following a series of diplomatic disputes. And that improvement in ties comes also despite the fact that Australia has deepened its security alliance with the US, with Washington notably agreeing to sell nuclear-powered submarines to Australia under their AUKUS scheme. Prime Minister Albanese says he will raise topics of concern and in particular tensions in the South China Sea when he meets with President Xi on Monday. But experts say that despite the fact that the Albanese government has put dialogue at the centre of its approach, there is still a long list of differences, and the differences remain the same, essentially.
Let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. The public will soon get an up-close look at a unique asteroid sample named Bennu, brought to Earth by NASA, with after a display was unveiled at the National Museums of Natural History in Washington. The asteroid is found to have carbon-rich soil, including water-bearing clay minerals. Sea turtles in Acapulco are facing a new threat this nesting season after a sanctuary for their protection was ravaged by Hurricane Otis. After 35 years in operation, the upcoming turtle nesting season is uncertain in the sanctuary after Otis tore through the area. British actor-comedian Russell Brand has been accused in a lawsuit of sexually assaulting a crew member on the New York City set of a 2011 romantic comedy Arthur. And sea turtles in Acapulco are facing a new threat this nesting season after a sanctuary for their protection was ravaged by Hurricane Otis. Now, scores of people gathered in Oakland, California for the renaming of a street in the rap legend Tupac Shakur's honor. Fellow artists called Tupac the greatest rapper ever, while Tupac's sister called on her brother's fans to honor his life and live in a way that reflected his love. Still to come on DD News Hour. In US, the fourth Republican presidential debate on December 6, tighter criteria for candidates. Japan, Philippines and US cooperating to protect the freedom of South China Sea.
A platform for the developing world, amplifying the voice of the global south with a focus on the growing economies, resolving the conflicts, showcasing the culture, tradition, heritage and diversity. Watch Voice of the Global South at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj, and let's have a look at the headlines once again. Israel fires missile at Gaza house of Hamas chief Haniyeh. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu wants hostages back to stop war. US Arab leaders to meet over Gaza. Qatari and Lebanese leaders call for Gaza ceasefire during meeting with Antony Blinken. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen visits Kyiv ahead of a report on accession progress. In U.S., the Republican National Committee has said Republican presidential primary candidates will need to meet relatively stringent polling requirements to participate in the fourth debate in December, which could result in winnowing of the field. The debate is set to take place in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, on December 6th. To qualify, the candidates will need to receive 6% support in at least two national polls, or both 6% in one national poll and 6% in one statewide poll in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, or Nevada. Those are crucial states in the nominating process, as they are the first four to select their preferred nominee. The RNC, in a statement, said candidates will also need 80,000 unique donors and at least 200 donors from each of 20 or more states and territories. The third Republican debate, which has a similarly structured polling threshold of 4%, will take place on Wednesday in Miami. U.S. President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden met with the families and victims of a mass shooting in Lewiston, Maine. A gunman opened fire on a bowling alley and bar in Lewiston on October 25th, killing 18 people and injuring 13 others before killing himself in a cargo trailer parked in the parking lot of the recycling plant where he used to work. U.S. Army reservist has been identified as the killer. While talking to the victims, Biden said that guns should be used reasonably. He has also called on Congress to pass gun safety legislation, which has been on hold.
This is about common sense, reasonable, and responsible measures to protect our children, our families, our communities. Because regardless of our politics, this is about protecting our freedom to go to a bowling alley, a restaurant, a school, a church, without being shot and killed.
Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida said on Saturday his country, the Philippines and United States were cooperating to protect the freedom of South China Sea, as he committed to help enhance Manila's security capabilities. Kishida and President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. agreed on Friday to start negotiations on a reciprocal troop access deal to strengthen military cooperation as China becomes increasingly assertive in the region. The Philippines and Japan, two of the United States' closest Asian allies, have taken a strong line against what they see as aggressive behavior by Chinese vessels amid decades-old disputes over maritime sovereignty. China claims sovereignty over almost the entire South China Sea, including parts of the exclusive economic zones of Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Vietnam. The Permanent Court of Arbitration in 2016 said China's claims had no legal basis. Japan in March observed U.S.-Philippine military drills, and in June, the Philippine and Japanese Coast Guards trained together for the first time. China and the U.S. held their first round of consultations on maritime affairs on Friday in Beijing. According to China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, both nations had an in-depth and constructive exchange on the maritime situation, maritime security, and maritime economy. China has also raised concern about the United States' increasing regional military deployment, its frequent close-in reconnaissance against China, and its support for South China Sea provocations by other nations. Both leaders underlined that in order to prevent miscommunication and errors in judgment, they need strengthened dialogue and communication. China and the United States are subtly talking to each on a range of issues: climate change, nuclear arms control, and even agriculture. Andrew Wood from Hong Kong tells us more.
Well, there's quite a wide variety of talks and discussions going on amongst or between Chinese and American institutions and politicians and officials. Sometimes, like on agriculture, the United States Department of Agriculture will attend a gigantic trade fair that starts at the weekend for the first time ever. Lots of representatives of American agricultural organizations covering exports of things like soybeans or grains or wheat have been in Beijing meeting their counterparts, and there have been commitments, admittedly non-binding commitments, signed by the Chinese to buy more American agricultural products. And that's important because ever since President Trump, or Donald Trump when he was president, put restrictions and tariffs on many Chinese products, China has tended to look elsewhere to diversify its supplies of agricultural products, and countries like Brazil have done very, very well. On Monday, we've got the start of discussions between American and Chinese teams of politicians and officials who deal with nuclear disarmament. China's been reluctant to talk about that in the past because it says it has so few nuclear weapons, only about 500, the Pentagon estimates, compared to America's 6,000. And then, of course, you've also got John Kerry, America's presidential envoy on climate change. He's meeting his counterpart, his Chinese counterpart, over the next few days as well. So remember that President Xi Jinping said a week or two ago that climate change was one of the few bright spots of the relations between America and China. So there's potential on all of those things for some progress, probably not groundbreaking progress. If there is going to be any groundbreaking progress, that's probably going to be left to the meeting, the expected meeting, although it hasn't been fully confirmed yet, the expected meeting of President Xi Jinping and President Joe Biden in San Francisco at the APEC forum in about 2 weeks' time. In Hong Kong, I'm Andrew Wood, reporting for DD India.
And extreme weather events are being witnessed across the globe. Here's our detailed report.
Countries across the world are witnessing extreme weather events. At many places, air quality has become a matter of concern. Breathlessness, irritation in eyes, itchy throats and coughs. This is how people of India's national capital, Delhi, are living in the month of November as a thick layer of toxic haze has descended. The air quality index continues to deteriorate into severe category in several parts. The government has announced an air emergency, shutting down schools and construction.
The AQI crossing 400 and going into severe category is mainly due to factors like combustion, due to the transportation, or whether it is the burning of the agricultural waste. Exposure needs to be avoided because pollution is directly responsible for many diseases. So the vulnerable population, whether it is the very old, small children, pregnant ladies, or people having already some respiratory conditions, they need to avoid as much as possible. They have any symptom, they should visit doctors to take treatment immediately.
India is not the only country battling these weather extremes. Wildfires and blazes are engulfing parts of Spain and Australia. Around 350 people had to be evacuated as a result of a wildfire that blazed close to the coastal town of Gandia in eastern Spain. Bushfires blazed across Australian states of New South Wales and Queensland, killing at least 2 and destroying dozens of homes. Storm Ciarán lashed northwestern Europe on Thursday, killing at least 7 people and forcing the Italian government to declare a state of emergency. Scientific studies indicate that extreme weather events are likely to become more frequent or more intense with human-induced climate change.
As India's capital, New Delhi's air pollution turns severe, doctors advise residents to stay indoor and warn long-term impact on health could be irreversible. DD India's Jessica Taneja spoke to a pulmonologist in Delhi. Here's what he said.
We have with us Dr. Nikhil Modi. He's been a pulmonologist for 15 years. Dr. Modi, thank you for speaking to us. Has anything changed this year? Are you seeing more patients related to breathing issues?
It's every year we see this time around the year. Now, for the last 3-4 days, what we are seeing in Delhi is the pollution level has suddenly increased to extremely bad levels. And our old patients who have breathing issues are coming to us with increased symptoms right now. Not only that, those people who never had breathing issues, whether they are children, whether they are elderly or young adults, all of them are facing trouble right now.
And how bad do you think is it going to get? And what's your advice to people, apart from just wearing masks, what other precautions do they need to take to really keep safe?
Right now, it's a very, very bad situation. So my advice right now is avoid going out under all circumstances. Only if it is an emergency, try stepping out right now. Apart from that, some amount of exercises, maybe some deep breathing exercises, even swimming, which can make your lungs healthy, along with a good fruits and vegetable-rich diet, which has a lot of antioxidants and vitamins, which can reduce the harms of this pollution. This everyone should be taking so that they are protected from. We have to take steps at individual level to reduce this pollution as much as possible. It is not only government which can do it, it's responsibility of each and every one of us for making us healthy and fit. Otherwise, this problem is going to get worse.
The problem is certainly going to get worse with 740% increase in stubble burning from the neighboring state of Punjab as one contributing factor. The PM 2.5 levels have gone up massively, much worse than what we saw in the last 3 years. With no respite from the rain, we're going to continue breathing this toxic air in the national capital while we wait for long-term remedies, if not immediate. This is Jessica Taneja with video journalist Naveen at Apollo Hospital in New Delhi.
Let's take a look at other stories making news. Bhutan king has arrived at IORA retreat in Kaziranga of India's northeastern state of Assam. Environment Minister and Agriculture Minister along with senior officials received him. Bhutan king met with the Chief Minister of Assam on Friday and held discussion on infrastructure partnerships, cooperation in healthcare and people-to-people ties. India's Minister Jitendra Singh has launched the websites of Global Bio India 2023, a mega international congregation on biotechnology that is to be held in Pragati Maidan, New Delhi from 4 to 6 of December 2023. He said India poised to be among top 5 global biomanufacturing hubs by 2025. Indian Air Force's Flying Instructors School at Air Force Station Tambaram is celebrating its Platinum Jubilee on Saturday. An international pilot training symposium unveiling of a Smriti Sthal along with an aerial display including the Surya Kiran aerobatic team was to be showcased at the event. Still to come on DD India News Hour. New class of Rock and Roll Hall of Fame picked up their honors at the 38th edition of the induction ceremony. India to take on South Africa in the much anticipated encounter at the iconic Eden Gardens.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi cautioned why the perils of appeasement politics can go to the extent of saving and standing with terror.
Sonia Gandhi's speech was kind of an apology speech for Hamas.
Karnataka has shown overwhelmingly that a certain community voted for the Congress and bloc. Congress party is consciously taking this position.
Our national security lie in the suppression and the crushing of the extremist and the terrorist elements.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. And the new class of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame picked up their honors at the 38th edition of the induction ceremony on Friday at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, yo.
Since its foundation in 1983, Cleveland-based Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Museum has been documenting the history of rock music and the artists, producers and engineers who have influenced its development. Every year, artists are inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame via an induction ceremony. The award is presented to inductees by an artist that was influenced by their music. This year's list of honorees includes British art pop legend Kate Bush, hip-hop trailblazer Missy Elliott, late megastar George Michael, pop rock hitmaker Sheryl Crow, outlaw country icon Willie Nelson, rap rock fire breathers Rage Against the Machine, and smooth soul group The Spinners.
And to all the musicians and the crews that have traveled with me for the last 36 years, you are family. We have been through cancer together. We've been through raising babies. We've been through divorces. We've lost people along the way. And that's what music has brought me, has been the most incredible journey.
Father of hip-hop DJ Kool Herc, guitar pioneer Link Bray, funk idol Chaka Khan, and veteran studio musician Al Cooper were also among other honorees. While British hitmaker Elton John's longtime music partner Bernie Taupin was honored with the Musical Excellence Award.
He isn't just a lyricist, he's a poet. He's a conjurer of cinema. And I am so proud tonight that he's being inducted into this Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be sitting here talking about him. Okay.
The 2023 inductees were chosen from 14 nominees by more than 1,000 artists and members of the industry, as well as fans' votes. The show streamed live on Disney Plus, and a special featuring highlights and performances will air on January 1st. The show closed with rapper and producer Missy Elliott, who became the first female rapper inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. As a producer and label executive, Elliott is credited with forging new paths for women in the music industry.
And Afghanistan defeated Netherlands by 7 wickets to register their 4th win in this edition of the World Cup on Friday. Afghanistan chased down Netherlands' 180 target in 32 overs. Captain Hashmatullah Shahidi struck unbeaten 56, while Rahmat Shah scored 52 to lead Afghanistan home. Earlier, Netherlands suffered batting collapse as they went from 73 for 1 to 179 all out. Sijbrand struck a gritty half-century but failed to push his team to a competitive total. And Indian vice captain Hardik Pandya has been ruled out of the rest of the World Cup after the all-rounder sustained an ankle injury last month, as per the International Cricket Council, as it approved Prasidh Krishna as his replacement. Pandya injured his left ankle during a match where India won by 7 wickets over Bangladesh in Pune on October 19th. They take on second-placed South Africa in Kolkata on Sunday. And Kolkata is caught up in cricket frenzy as anticipation builds for the high-voltage showdown between India and South Africa at the iconic Eden Gardens. The city cricket enthusiasts are buzzing with excitement, hoping for India to maintain their flawless record in the tournament. More in this exclusive report by our correspondent Narayan Singh. Kolkata is buzzing with anticipation as the city prepares to host the heavyweight clash between India and South Africa at the iconic Eden Gardens on 5th of November. The atmosphere in the City of Joy is vibrant. Everyone is trying in their own way to make India versus South Africa World Cup match special. Painter Subhajit is creating a painting of Virat Kohli. This intricate artwork is intended as a heartfelt gift to Kohli, who coincidentally celebrates his birthday on November 5th. What better way to honor the cricket legend than with a handcrafted work of art on his special day?
Virat Kohli is my favorite player. He is my idol. That's why I'm making this. And besides this, 5th November is his birthday. So I want to gift him. It's a very good conditions. People are very much interested to watch the match, which is going to be in between the India and the South Africa. So there is very good atmosphere.
Indian cricket team's remarkable journey in the 2023 World Cup has ignited a sense of pride and joy in the hearts of fans. Cricket enthusiasts can hardly contain their excitement as they gear up for a memorable showdown.
The excitement is pretty high, as you can see. Everyone, almost everyone is getting accumulated all together. They're just coming down to see how is Eden getting prepared for the big match coming on 5th of November. And yeah, each and everyone, starting from the teenagers to, elderly ones. So everyone is damn excited for the big match coming down. Virat Kohli is going to be the X factor for Team India. Alongside, we can't forget about Mohammad Shami and Jasprit Bumrah.
Here it's a lot of excitement, like it's a World Cup match overall, and Kolkata is all about sports, so people are getting more excited. People from Tripura, Bihar, Odisha are coming just to watch this match, especially India versus South Africa at Eden Gardens. And Eden is full decked up and light up with enjoyment and joy.
The Eden Gardens is set to witness a sea of enthusiastic fans who will cheer their hearts out for Team India. The air is thick with expectation and optimism as fans hope for another sensational performance by Men in Blue.
Cricket fans are eagerly waiting for this high-voltage match between India and South Africa, and fans all over India and world are coming here to witness this historic match. And everybody in its own way is trying to make this match special, and Cricket Association of Bengal is also trying to make this match unique, as on 5th November there is the birthday of Indian cricketer Virat Kohli, and so Team India will also try to make it out 8 out of 8 wins for the country, and they will try to make this match special by defeating the South African team, who are also in great run. With camera person Senthil Kumar, Narayan Singh, DD India, Kolkata.
All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.